Welcome here today to the Empowering Transformation series. My name is Vicki Thorpe, and I'm really grateful that I get to interview LoriKay today. And finding out a little bit about, first of all, I want to know what had her actually scheduled the summit, but I want to tell you a little bit about her. I've known her for a while, and she is this amazing practitioner that has a myriad of alternative healing tools that she uses to help balance people, including me, mentally, emotionally, physically. And she is such a great teacher. She teaches about how the brain and body function together and how to have your brain and body function optimally. And I love working with her because of the joy that comes out as she's working with me, and the connection, inspiration, and she's just really great with people. So, and we've been studying a couple of modalities together, and she's a certified, she and I are both certified in the abundance alignment technique, and it's an amazing technique, and she'll be telling us a little bit about that today. She's also a foot zoner, investigative health practitioner, and she does advanced investigating of brain energy work. And she's also a Reiki master. So kind of putting all that together in the spiritual alchemy, let's go ahead and we'll learn a little bit more about you as we go along. But first of all, what had you schedule this whole summit? What was it that had you schedule this?
Well, in March, actually it was March, I could see people having a hard time, the panic that people were having, rushing to the stores and all of that. And I felt so much peace. And in April, things were getting even worse. And I saw that, once again, I saw the outside world struggling. And I'm like, oh, I am so okay. And I recognize that it has been from a lot of the things that I have done for myself to get me to this point, but also the tools that I have available that keep me so balanced. And I wanted to bring solutions to other people so that their burdens could become lighter and not feel so heavy. And so that the times that we're in wouldn't be so hard and scary and challenging. It doesn't change what's happening. What changes is what's happening inside. And luckily, my sweet father, who's passed away about 2.5 years ago, he left me some inheritance money. And with that money, I choose to feel alive, because there's been times in my life where I definitely have not. And so I choose to feel alive and have experiences with my family. And I choose to try and help other people. And I felt that I should do this. And what happened was I was just scrolling through Facebook and an advertisement popped up. And it caught my attention. It's like, learn to do a summit. I'm like, I don't want to do a summit. Why would anyone want to do a summit?
It's a lot of work, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, this is so much work. I had no clue how much work and how much money I'd be pouring into this puppy. But because of my father, I had those resources available. And so I listened to the training. I'm like, there's no way I'm doing that. And I let it go by. And then it came up about 3 weeks later, and it got me again. I'm like, why do I need to listen to this lady for another hour? But I did. And I felt like I should do this. And so here I am. It scared me to death. I thought it was absolutely impossible. I don't even know how to reply to emails. I get lost in emails. I have no technology. So I know nothing. And but through this process, I couldn't be the poor, I know nothing, and be who I needed to be to pull this off. And it has transformed me in this process. So I am thankful that God was like, do this for other people, because I'll do things for other people, but I won't do things for me. And so by doing this for other people, it has strengthened me.
Mm. So I want to say thank you on behalf of all of us all the people that are going to be watching the summit, all of us that have gotten to participate in the summit, to both you and your father for this gift that you've given all of us. So thank you, first of all.
Mhm. Yeah. You know, it makes me, one of my values is contributing, having something. I love, I have to make sure I don't go into a savior complex where I overgive and, um, and try to rescue everybody. But I love it. I feel like, okay, I did something. I did what I could. So,
Yeah, you did what you said you were going to do and you're fulfilling on it. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah. So, what are the things in your, like, it's not by happenstance that you just, even though it seems like it's happenstance, sometimes like you just saw the article in the newspaper, but in reality, it's kind of a culmination of all the things that have been going on in your life that have brought everything together that has you be ready to take that scary step
You guys are
into,
so scary.
yeah. Well, and really, it is into like this situation that we've had with COVID. It's been a lot of chaos, but to take a step into the chaos, not know how things are going to turn out, right? You didn't know how this is going to turn out. You had an intention. And, with COVID, we don't have a choice of whether we really want to take a step. We're in it. But you actually made a choice and stepped into this. And what were the things that actually, besides your dad's money, right? What
Mm.
were the things that brought you to this choice of stepping forward and doing the summit?
You know, I have this burning desire in me. It's just like, and I don't even know where it comes from. I feel like if each person did one little thing in this world, that the world would be a better place. And if something comes to our mind to do something to make a change in the world, that the means and the possibility will come together for that to happen. And so I just have this deep, I just, oh, I want our world to be filled with caring people who love one another and accept different thought processes and solutions that are good for both sides of the aisle and not just my way or the highway type of thing. And if people could learn some skills, but the first thing is to just come from the heart, and a true heart place cares about the neighbor.
Mm.
And if we all were doing that, our world would be so much better. And what I found was I had such a hard time choosing the topic of the summit. I at first wanted it to be all about health because I know when you don't have health, there's no way you can have the energy to do anything. And
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 that
so,
really comes from your own struggle with health,
oh
right?
goodness, yes. Boy, have I struggled. I've struggled for, oh my gosh, it's been 30 years now. On a little bit of a roller coaster. It's not always been horrible, horrible. It was horrible, horrible for about 4 years, which feels like an eternity.
Yeah.
But um, but anyway, so even the first month of trying to put this together, I was getting nowhere. It was so 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 hard, and I found myself crying on the floor and just who am I to try and do this? This is impossible. And
Yeah.
um, but but anyway, it's yeah.
Well, I think, you look at with dealing with COVID, it feels a lot like that too. That, you look out there and it seems like the government is getting nowhere with dealing with it, and the doctors aren't really getting anywhere very fast. So that whole, understanding your process of how you went through this actually kind of gives us creation has a process, right? When things are created, there's a process that it goes through. and it looks messy. It just does, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and part of that was I chosen because my heart was like, do this. And
Yeah.
then literally within 3 days, I called the company back and said, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
The fear just gripped, and then they talked me into it and like, oh, it's this, oh, it's that, it's not that hard. And then I could feel that spark again. Um, and then what I ended up doing was reaching out to a support team. And and so I I had hired a very experienced virtual assistant that knew how to do summits. And I also used my family as my support team. And I told them, I said, I can't do this. And they took over the shopping and for groceries, and they took over cooking. I only cook once a week. And they just served me so much because I spoke up. And then when I just needed to be held and cried, I'd be in Scott's lap and I'd be like, can't do this. And he's like, sweetheart, you've already jumped. You're doing this. You can do it. And
Yeah.
so that process is messy, and it's always not very clear, the path. When you think you know the path, it's not always a clear path.
Yeah. So we can interpret some of that chaos experience you had as trauma, right? During this whole process.
Oh, I was traumatizing myself. I was acting like I was allergic to my actual summit. The stress levels were being so high that I was breaking out in rashes and headaches. Um, uh, I kept out of anxiety because I'm pretty good about that. But what would happen is I couldn't get myself to use my own tools. And so I had to reach out to others to support me. Some of that looked like a coach telling me to literally go into my car and just scream and just let it all out, and just the frustrations. He's like, you just have got to let the pent out emotions get out. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what? Because I like doing it more subtly, and but he's like, go into the car and just have a screaming fit, until you are just exhausted. And I, was talking about my frustrations and how this was so impossible, and it really was so impossible. That's what it felt like. And after doing that, I'd be exhausted, and then I'd go sleep and then start all over again.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
there were a lot of days that I did 15 hours because I was so slow. I'm so slow at everything. So slow.
So you give me lots of hope, just like you just told us you had set up a support structure with your family and other people around you. And then you took that jump that seemed scary of doing what your heart was telling you to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you saw you were traumatizing yourself, so then you got some support to help work through that. And your coach told you to go scream in the car, and you went and go screamed in the car.
I didn't really want to. I'm like, oh, brother.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
tell you, that is pretty awesome.
I have actually done that before. It's a great tool. Yeah.
And
Oh,
honestly, it wasn't until I finally reached out to my coach and asked him to do the abundance alignment technique
mm,
with me. I could not get myself to do it. I know it works. It's helped me in so many ways, but this seems so big and so impossible and just so out of my reach. I could not make myself do the process. And so I reached out to my coach and I'm like, okay, I'll pay you money. Do the process on me. About an hour and a half.
that's what it takes sometimes, right? Even though we know what there is to do, sometimes you're in the space of not even thinking clearly.
I just couldn't. I could not move forward. And it was like, I was so reactive. I was like pushing away like I was allergic to it, and, and addicted to the small me and, oh, I'm incapable. Oh, I can't do something big. That was safe.
Yeah.
That's safety. I was addicted to the safety. Another one of my core values is peace. Well, doing a scary thing is not peaceful. So,
It doesn't seem like it, but you actually did find peace in it, right?
I eventually did. I eventually did after I got aligned so that every cell and organ and belief system and subconscious program that I've ever had was on board with my summit. And I had to redefine what the word summit meant. To me, the experience that I was having, headache, fatigue, overwhelmed. That's what the word summit meant. And my coach was like, that's not working for you. How about, but he wanted me to write out everything, all my experiences, all my feelings about this word. Because when you have an experience with something, that is now part of your cells. It's part of who you are. And so when you look at it, say, wow, that's a lot of crap that I'm putting to that word. And so I have a little example of simple thing. A kid saying, oh, the potatoes taste different tonight. The mom saying, oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, you're critical. Oh, they're demanding. No, those are your made up stories.
Yeah.
That kid is just observant. They're just speaking.
Yeah.
So that word, potatoes, or tasting different tonight, it's just like all these subconscious things are making up stories about what was said. And so we want to give ourselves a chance to look at the stories on paper and say, all right, I experienced that. That story is very real, but let's look at it. What do I want it to be now? Well, I want my summit to be doable. I want it to show that I'm brave. I have a hard time being brave. You don't know how hard this is. I used to not be able to be someone who could speak. And so I wrote out what I wanted it to be. And then I'll show you what the little breathing and tapping exercise is. It's so simple. Anyone can do it. And what you do is you get into different layers of it by just holding a little fist that represent different things. And you do a tapping technique that goes over your head to your C7, a bump back here, and a certain breathing pattern that goes into your brain, into it's the RAS, reticular activating system.
Yeah.
Yeah, reticular activating system. And as you are tapping on over your head, you're doing so many things. But one of them is you're getting it into that system that brings your eyes open to seeing more of what you want. So like when you say, when you buy a new car and it's red, and then all of a sudden you see all these red cars that are exactly like yours that you never saw before. Mm-hmm. When you are tapping over here, there's a funnel in your brain that tapping motion, while you're saying what you want, it goes and finds it for you. So it can be a reality for you. And doing this tapping motion also is taking that meridian line backwards. You have a governing and central meridian line that is over here, and you're dumping out the trash, the subconscious trash that is keeping you stuck as you're doing this tapping. And then not only that, it combines it with certain breath patterns that are changing things in your body, the physiology. Let me see if I can find a paper about that. There's, it can, it accesses your subconscious. It can help with pain relief and healing, concentration, problem solving, motivation, and energy. The breath pattern does those things in your body. And then, and you put this all together in this simple little thing while thinking about what you want to let go of, while thinking about what you want, but we use the word alignment. And so we go through life, our goal is here, and we go through life and we block ourselves. And we're like, hey, get out of my way, align, get to the side, out of my way, out of my way, out of my way. And then you get to your goal. And so I did this process for an hour and a half. Yes, it gets a little obnoxious. Yes, it's not my favorite thing to do. And yes, it's much better to do it with somebody because, anyway, it just is because it's so hard to do it on your own. At least what I find for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like this, but let me get some water first. Okay, you're gonna breathe in through your nose. Your hand is on your forehead. While you're breathing in through your nose, you're going to tap all the way to this bump on your back. Okay, so breathing in through your nose, breathe it out through your mouth. You're gonna do that 3 times. Breathe in through your nose, breathe out through your mouth. Back hand back to the forehead. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Now we change the breath pattern. Do it 3 times. And a smile. And ending it with a smile, it is so cool. Our nervous system knows when we're smiling. When you are so stressed out, you don't feel safe. But when you're smiling, obviously there's some level of safety that you have. And so your nervous system, even from a fake smile, it's still like, oh, okay. And it will, the chemicals from your glands, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, the pineal gland, will secrete the happy juice, the serotonin, the dopamine, the calming effect. And you combine this tapping, breathing, thinking, the 8 modes, while addressing every story that you've had about this thing, and then you can go get your goal. And it's a beautiful thing. The very next day after getting aligned to my summit, after a month of trying, I was able to reach out to my first stranger and say, do you want to do this with me? I was so scared. I was so scared. I didn't even want to send an email out. It's like, oh, it has to be perfect. It has to be perfect for me to do. Oh my gosh, not one thing in this entire summit is anywhere close to perfect of what I wanted it to be. My opt-in video, not even. And that was after me trying for 3 weeks and a full 8 hours of recording over and over and over again. I'm like, that's just done. Go. My banner, I accepted it accidentally. I was just like, well, yes, that's done. And yes, I could have paid more money to have it be different, but learning close enough, good enough, let's just move forward. Thank you very much. You know, and
That is a miracle for you, isn't it?
oh my gosh, I'm a frustrated perfectionist that have never been a, anyway. My kids don't even know I'm a frustrated perfectionist because I have given that up in my house. I'm such a clutter bunny. Oh, I wish I could show you my organization system. It is like scary, but it's the inside of me. I just want things to be perfect. I just, and if I can't be perfect, I'm going to do nothing at all. It's like I'm this all or nothing kind of person. If you know, it's like, stop it. And by aligning myself to this, I was able to say, all right, well, that's what it is, and not be ripped up inside about it. Yeah, that's not what I want. Oh, okay, well, moving forward. And it's like water off the back. I'm like, whoa, that didn't bother me. And then I stopped having the physical reactions. I stopped breaking out in my rashes. I stopped. Now, there were 2 or 3 days where I had very severe headaches, but I recognized it was things that I was eating and my gallbladder causing those. So when you get a headache that is here and goes right here, that is your gallbladder not happy. That is you eating too much fat and your body not processing it. And for me, what happens is then my muscles tense up, it pulls my vertebrae out, and then my head's not on my shoulders straight. And so it's very, very intense pain. But even in that state, I can use this simple technique to reduce my pain. And so I'll put my hand where the pain is and do that tapping breathing procedure. And if and then I talk out my thoughts about what I'm thinking. I always get so sick. All right, that's a block. I always get so sick. Get out of my way. Move. and I call it, it sounds a little bit weird, I align, I always get sick. Now you could say, I want to let go, but it's getting out of your way. I always get sick. Letting go of that and do that. What else is coming to my mind? This is so hard. Letting go of that. Will this ever end? Letting go of that. Because anyway, and processing it. And then I have other things that I've taught with other tapping techniques that I've sent out through the videos of this series, teaching that. And it's also on my Healing for Bodies Facebook, where you tap on the different meridian lines. And by tapping, you are putting an energy. It's an energy in there. And that vibration is making the meridians open up and flow. It's making the muscles get connected to your brain, and your brain's like, oh, look at that muscle. Are you happy? And it helps it change from that tapping. And then your own intent is even more. And so you are making physiological changes from doing the action. But you can have it be even more profound if you put an intention behind it. So anyway, I would do some of these other things. And other times, I didn't want to take care of myself. And I'd go to my naturopath. I'm like, hey, I want you to take care of me. Because I just wanted someone else to take care of me.
Yeah.
And so I had someone else take care of me.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And so.
Yeah. So that, so you talked about a couple of different therapies you do.
Mm-hmm.
So the abundance alignment technique, and then also just regular tapping. And then also you talked about your understanding. So where does the understanding of the gallbladder energy come from?
That comes from a lifetime of major pain. And so I have gone to so many doctors. Oh my gosh. So once I changed my belief that I was worth having money spent on, oh, let me tell you, my sweet husband has gotten like 7 new wives over the 31 years that we've been married. This one believes in spending money, honey. But anyway, so I would go to these doctors and I'd say, okay, I have the pain here, I have the pain here. And they're like, oh, that's your gallbladder, not happy. And so they were the ones that helped me piece it together. It was just the kind of doctors I would choose to attend. And then I could use my agency because, oh boy, I love my cashew nuts. And I think I'm addicted to peanuts. I need to really do something about that one. Because I will just take a spoonful of peanut butter and eat it and be able to, I have such food issues, huge, huge, huge food issues that it's very, very daunting. And let me tell you a little bit about the history of that. And there's some lessons that you can learn. One, if you get an impression, listen to it. Okay? Because I have a lifetime of not listening to impressions, and it really sucks because you think you know better because you want something so bad, and you go against an impression, and then crap really happens. So I found myself mother of 2 children, 2-year-old and a new baby, and I was having postpartum depression, and I was having my hands swollen and rashy and cracked. And I was having the severe migraines. At that time, I didn't know it had to do with what I was eating. And so I go to my OB/GYN person, and he, let's see, I'm crying, and he's like, oh, here, get on this. And so I try to pray. No, I didn't go to him. I didn't know to go to him. Okay, so I'm not recognizing how bad off I am. I go to the dermatologist because I see my hands, I can't move my hands. They are so painful. So that's the doctor I go to, dermatologist. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, let's give you a cortisone shot. And my heart just says, no, don't do that. You need to find out what is behind this, what is causing this. And And so I'm like, no, that doesn't feel right. And so he gave me topical creams. He told me to wear cotton gloves. He says, well, don't be stressed and don't touch anything. And I'm like, thanks. And so I have a 2-year-old and a baby, and I'm not to touch things. And I put on cotton gloves, and I put on plastic gloves to try and do things. But doing that also hurts my hands. And so I try to literally touch as little as possible. Well, I am getting pretty ticked at God because I can't care for my family. I'm not reducing my pain. Um, and and so I do a prayer that sounded more like a yelling fest. How can you do this to me? How dare you? I was so ticked, so ticked. And then I'm like, okay, I'm listening. What came to my mind was, you chose this. I'm like, no, I did not choose this. And a flood of memories came of me praying about getting on the birth control, feeling like I should not, deciding to go on the birth control and pretending I never heard that inspiration, and then having a dream of a little girl that needed to come into my life, pretending that that dream really meant absolutely nothing because the dream got kind of weird and yeah, I can't trust that, and staying on the pill. Well, after my years, and then I had a hard time getting pregnant, but my plan, oh, my plan was so good. My plan was I was going to graduate from college. I met my husband at BYU. I wanted to get my teaching degree. My mother dropped out of college her last year. She did not get her teaching degree. Then my dad got cancer in his 40s and 5 kids. Who's going to support this family if the dad dies? I was not going to drop out that last year. I was going to guarantee that I made it through, and the only way I could figure out to guarantee was to get on the pill. And so I ignored my inspiration. But what I learned, the pill back then, it made this chemical reaction that eventually hurt my digestive system, that made it leaky, that made it so that candida was growing, and the toxins of the candida affect my brain and my body, and my liver was so taxed because I had hepatitis as a child, and it was just this combination of everything, and my body just broke down and did not work. But God tried to let me know that I chose my path. And he's like, you chose this path. I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess I did. And so, but the gracious thing is he still guided me on my new path. I had a friend come to me and say, I know what you need to do. Go see this doctor 3 hours away. She had just moved to the area. Go off wheat, go off sugar, go off milk. I'm like, I'm not that sick. I'm not doing that. Well, 5 years later, I was that sick, and I did exactly those behavior changes. And God tried to give me the answer, and I chose not to listen. Even though I'm sitting there praying, send me the answer, send me the answer. I'm like, don't like that answer. How about another answer? How about another answer? And even when I didn't like his first answer, he still was gracious and gave me other answers that moved me along my path. And so if we can tune in and not only hear it, but do it, even if it's not what we want to do. Oh my gosh, is it ever what we want to do? But it's for our better, it's for our benefit. It's not to torture us. But what happened to me, Vicki, is when I finally got allergy tested, I was literally allergic to every single food that I had ever eaten any time in my entire life. Everything I was allergic to. And then, there was one other time when I didn't listen to some inspiration that totally devastated my body. I wasn't losing my baby weight. I was feeling very fat and very body image is huge. And I was raised with a father who was very verbal about body image. And my mother was obese. And so it was just, anyway, issues there. Okay.
Mhm.
So here I'm not losing this body fat. And I go on a cruise and they're like, oh, come get this wrappy thing and you'll lose your fat. And I'm like, ooh, I want to do that. And so I do this procedure and they're like, oh, now you need to buy these pills. And my heart's like, don't buy those pills. I'm like, no, no, thank you. I'm not going to do that. And then they said, oh, well, if you don't do that, you just wasted this $100 or whatever amount it was. You just wasted all your money because that does nothing without this. And so I let them pressure me into that because of my body image issues and not being able to stand up into what I myself. Well, it turned out that I got parasites from those supplements. And that destroyed my digestive tract even more, even more. And it was actually my mother when I was telling my mom, because I had no support in Texas. Um, I was in Texas, my family lived in Arizona, Scott's family's in Utah. And so I'm trying to raise these children. I'm paranoid about me being the only one with my kids.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fear. One of my cousins married a pedophile. And, and so I felt like I couldn't trust anyone. And so I was with these kids all the time, never a break. And but it was, does that mean everyone is unsafe? Well, it means I need to be cautious and careful, but I took it to the extreme because of this fear and in me. And and so I would tell my mom, you know, how I was having a hard time. She's like, Lori, you're going from talking about your hands hurting to how you're hurting digestively. I'm like, oh, I am. And so I went to a doctor and they actually, I don't know why they thought to test for parasites. That's something that a lot of doctors don't test for. And he did. And anyway, it was just, at that point, with all the doctors that I was going to, they could find nothing wrong with me, nothing at all wrong with me. So I had fibromyalgia, I had chronic fatigue, I had depression, and they found nothing wrong. And oh, and then the chronic migraines also. And that was all food allergy related and stuff. And and so yeah, it was because of my mom saying something, me going to the doctor, to another doctor. And I was so disgusted. I was so disgusted. I'm like, woohoo, it's something real. It's disgusting, but it's real. And what I learned also, um, oh, what I want to encourage people to do, when you have an impression to reach out to somebody, reach out to them. Because in Texas, when I was at my lowest, before I had any of the doctors figure out food allergies and this, that, and the others, and the doctor just making me feel like I'm crazy because they can't find something wrong. And for some reason, me feeling like I'm not supposed to get on medication. I'm not anti-medication, but there has been family members who have committed suicide from being on medication. So I had this fear of being on the medication. Whether that fear was granted or not, I had a fear of it and I could not do it. And so here I am, so, so much pain, so much pain. It hurt, it hurt. There was a spot on my body that didn't hurt. Level 10, everywhere. And I'm just like, I just want this to end. Oh, it would be such a beautiful thing to just have this be over. I have such a belief that there is life after death. I have such a belief that God has grace and that He understands where we are at, and that through His grace, He can rescue us. And I was like, let's just end this. Let's just have it be over. And I'm like, oh, but I don't want to leave my children. And then it came to my mind, oh, I could just do this really simple thing. And I'm not going to share what the really simple thing is. Oh, but it would have been so simple, and it wouldn't have been painful for anyone. And when I'm thinking about doing this, I get a phone call. And I don't know how I had the energy to pick up that phone call. And I still remember who it was. Her name was Erlene McDonald. I don't know what she was calling me about. She sold Shackley at the time. But her voice pulled me out of that. And I'm like, wow, that was not cool. And up to this point, let's see, it had been a year and a half. I had not told my husband how much pain I was in. I didn't believe I could have money spent on me to get the help. So I wasn't going to the doctor after doctor after doctor to try and figure things out. I went to a handful, but not keep searching. I had the belief system that I wasn't worthy to have money spent on me. I had the belief system, well, you don't have enough money. If I would have, I had the belief that I couldn't speak up. I had the belief that my needs don't matter. Oh my gosh, that is so strong. My needs don't matter. And these beliefs were keeping me from reaching out. But I knew from that scary experience, I had to say something to my husband. I mean, he knew I was having a hard time. He was doing all the cooking. He was doing all the cleaning. I couldn't do anything. My parents came and lived with me for a couple weeks in Texas because I couldn't do anything. You know, so people knew I was having a hard time, but they didn't know. They didn't know. So I was able to say to my husband, I know I'm going to die if I stay here. I hope you can come with me. And what I learned about this area in Texas is that there was a cement plant that burned hazardous wastes from around the country. And they would take the hazardous waste around the country and use it in their furnaces to make their cement. And then we were downwind from them. So I was being dumped on by toxins, dioxins, heavy metals and chemicals that were making my brain not work, making my skin, making my liver, my poor liver just could not cope. And oh, I had so much anger, so much rage. I was suppressing all this anger and rage all the time. And sometimes I just couldn't do it anymore and I would explode. And what I learned as I healed my liver, I just wasn't angry anymore. I didn't have to suppress. I didn't have to try so hard. I just was not angry anymore as I healed my liver of these toxic poisons from being downwind. And with my body, my constitution being so sensitive, it really affected me. And with me choosing the decisions I made earlier in my life and compromising my physical health made these things harder on me. And so it's taken me over, I'm still cleansing things out 20 years later. I'm getting these heavy metals out of my brain. I can't tell you how much my brain does not function. I function in the spiritual realm when I do energy work, not my own mental capacity. It's my own mental capacity is really pathetic. No, I take that back. It is improving every single day.
There, yes, that's much better.
So anyway, reach out to people and listen. I finally told God, I'm like, I need to hear something 3 times and then I will figure out the money to do it. And that's how I would choose. And then I'd give each program about a year to do some work with me. And then I'd say, okay, what is the next level that will bring me to my next, because I believe there's layers that we have to go through. So what is the next thing that will bring me to my next layer of health?
That's a great question for people that are listening to this to actually ask themselves. So thanks for, what is the next thing that will make a difference?
What is the next thing? Yeah.
For my health, spiritually, emotionally, physically, work, relationships. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And each, the most profound things that have helped me was Kundalini yoga,
Mm.
because it helped the energy systems open. It helped me be able to have my voice. It opened up my throat chakra. And then I had to learn to connect it to my heart with love, speak your truth with love.
Mhm.
And that was when my sweet husband learned that he had a wife that had a voice. It was a little bit of an adjustment. And and then the other thing, um, this complete alignment technique has just really made a huge, huge thing. What it has done to me is opened my eyes to even more solutions, which I accredit that technique to. So
Mhm.
doing that technique made it so my mind was open to another solution. And I got into quantum therapeutic meditation, where I was able to let go of my anger towards God. I basically refired God again. Well, again, I mean, I was angry with him back in Texas. Well, after my father died, this this can of worms opened up, and it was heavy and hard, and I felt abandoned, and I was going to a counselor doing EMDR with her because I was getting tired of using my own tools to pull me out of anxiety, and it was just opening up to this whole stuff, and I felt very abandoned by God. And so with the complete alignment technique, I basically redefined God. Okay, what are my experiences with God where he has let me down? Write it out, write it out, write it out, and look at it. This is why I feel abandoned by you. I had this happen and this. What do I want our relationship to be? I don't want you to be far. I want you to be here. I want to hear you. I want to feel you. Write it out, write it out, write it out. Align yourself to it. And there were a lot of things that needed to shift in me to let go of these negative definitions of God and to accept what I wanted. I don't want a demanding God. I don't want a punishing God. I want a loving God. That's the relationship that I want. And so this alignment technique helped me with that. And so it brought me to this quantum thing where I did a procedure where once again I, in a different way, went through and let go of, I can't remember what it was, but I was letting go of the energy of something and then replacing it with something else. And it was very deep and very, very healing. And I could feel like the very essence of me was being restructured. Like my physical aspect, it's like everything was being restructured in a new LoriKay. And that came from the quantum, but that came from the abundance alignment technique that made me be willing to pay another $2,000 for this other class. And what I learned is I have a hard time wanting to stay alive. And um, it's so I have experiences that make me feel alive. And by taking these classes and being around these positive people and learning new things, that's a level of aliveness that I need to keep going. And so that's how I was coping with that I don't know, whatever that was. So I've taken so many classes trying to feel that aliveness in me. And I'm thankful for all the classes that I have taken and the people that I've connected with and the growth that I've had. But out of all of them, and it's so funny because the abundance alignment technique really annoys me. I don't like doing it. I'm like, I'm sick of tapping on my head. And so I'll take a break, but I can feel, and sometimes I can feel the shift and sometimes I can't. But what I'm seeing over, I guess it's been a year and a half now of doing it,
Mhm.
a year of being a certified teacher at least. Anyway, the changes, oh my gosh, the changes are,
Yeah. I've seen the changes in you, and I've seen the changes in myself. Yeah. So,
yeah, it's just, and it's not a magic wand. Nothing is ever a magic wand, people. It's a growth. It's a journey. It's a, yeah. But it's a tool. It's a tool. So how long have we been talking? I'm not looking at the clock.
let's see. It is, oh, let's see.
Probably time to wrap this up, huh?
Oh, I think, well, if I can't remember what time did we start?
I don't know what time we
Oh,
start.
so I think we've been going for about 45 minutes.
Okay.
Is it time to wrap up?
I feel like the people don't want to listen more. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
if we turn it into an hour, I'm fine with an hour. But
Well,
so
let's just wrap up a couple of things, like points that you talked about. So what has been great is hearing about your journey of the summit and your life journey and how you um, utilize tools to enjoy the journey and have transformation and not be stuck in the trauma. Like, even if it's self-inflicted trauma or trauma from, you talked about a lot of self-inflicted trauma, which we all do. Like, most of us don't even acknowledge it. So that's really huge that you can recognize that, you know, some of your choices have caused trauma to you that you could have avoided by listening and giving us that counsel. You know, listen to that inspiration or that those feelings or those thoughts that you have. I think that's really wise counsel. And then enjoy, you know, whatever, to choose the journey that you chose and enjoy the process. Really key things. Is there anything else you want to tell us about the complete alignment technique that you do? Or,
well, just that so often we are addicted to what is not helpful to us, and we are pushing away what we really need. And just know that you can do this process and have a statement, or if you feel tension in your body, you can ask for that to be released, or there's just different things that you can do. And what I will be doing with our audience, normally, I've adjusted my rates because of COVID, but right now I do just $1 an hour for my time. And
wow.
um, with this summit, I want to take people through a process where I am going to have a give and receive cycle for a couple of reasons. One, I suck at receiving. Two, when you choose to give, you get more out of it and you choose to show up. Okay? And so I'll have it be really low, just $20, and we will go through the full process. We're going to do a process of about the summit. I release stress and have a peaceful mind.
Yeah. And this is not like, you and I spent thousands of dollars learning this
Oh my
process.
gosh, I have spent probably $50,000 on my training.
Yeah. So I wanted people to appreciate the value that they're, you know, your expertise of all the expertise of the trainings that you've been through, that you're bringing to this wonderful process. I've used it for insomnia for myself, and it, like, I went from getting 0 sleep per night to being able, I consistently can get some sleep every night, and I'm still working through it, but I'm finding, you know, the complete alignment technique, I'm finding some resolution,
Yeah.
which I've struggled with this for years. I mean, from childhood. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's been really cool to be able to actually see some progress.
No,
So I'm excited you're offering this to everyone.
Yeah, and part of that comes from my past, feeling like I didn't have the money to be able to do something. I want to help those people that with the COVID thing. Oh my goodness, I feel for you. It's not easy, but if we can calm what is happening inside of us, we can
Yeah.
handle what's happening outside of us.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's something there. And just to clarify, with the amount that I have spent on my training, it's been over 10 years of doing things. And every time a new training came across my awareness that I wanted to do, I'd be like, hey, God, I want to do that. Can you help me earn the money? And then he would send me clients. So I've never made any money from my business over the past decade. It's all been reinvested in my training. And I've been blessed that my husband, we can live on his, we're certainly not wealthy, but we can live on his income. And so anyway, it's something that I've done over a long time. And yeah.
Well, thank you, LoriKay, so much for your generosity for this summit, and also just your generosity and what you're offering as part of the summit. Thank you.
Yes, and so if people want to opt into that, you can click on the button. Honestly, I haven't quite figured out how my virtual assistant will help it all flow. I hired a sweet little girl from the Philippines, and so she's helping me out. But we will have probably a PayPal, maybe a Venmo, and then you'll have a link to a Zoom meeting, and I can give you a recording of that link. And I would be open to doing multiple sessions of this, of different topics, if there is an interest. And what I would
So
talk
what
about
is the topic you're going to?
This one will be, I release stress easily and have peace.
Oh, that's perfect for what the summit topic
Yeah,
is. So
yeah.
yeah,
So
to support yourself,
mhm.
yeah, do register for that, the complete alignment technique. Yeah.
There's other ones, like if you, there's so many things to consider
Yeah,
doing,
this
or
is
like,
like, that's perfect,
yeah.
LoriKay. Thank you for that offering.
Oh, it's wonderful. Well, I'd like to say goodbye to the audience. I'm sorry that you got to see a teary LoriKay today. I'm not always bubbly and da, 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 da. I have mellow times. I have crying times. I have.
I love that you're fully self-expressed and that whatever was there got expressed. And thank you for your time today.
All right, thank you, and everyone have a beautiful day filled with peace and laughter and, oh, and lots of love. Bye-bye.
Bye.